So I'm really curious to hear how you define potential and how you actually, um, measure or assess it without the self-reported piece.
Mm. So, and that it's not a new approach at L'Oréal. We've always looked very carefully and very strongly at the personality of the candidates. It's always been a very strong aspect of the recruitment process. Um, and so we have what we call five potential criteria. And these five potential criteria, we use them in order to assess our talents and our leaders internally. And it's exactly the same criteria that we are using for recruitment. So there is perfect consistency. So these five are, I already mentioned three. So you have learning agility, you have ambition, you have empathy, you have judgment, and resilience.
Welcome to the Future of Less Work, where we're piecing together the transformation of work one question at a time. I'm Nirit Cohen, and with me today is Michael Kienle, Global VP of Talent Acquisitions at L'Oréal. I invited Michael because I want to hear from someone who sees the future of work not just through trends and headlines, but from within the organization, someone who's not just watching the shifts, but actually responding to them, maybe even shaping what comes next. Michael, welcome to the Future of Less Work.
Nirit, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And, I always kind of want to describe that I called this podcast The Future of Less Work because it's not just technology that enables us to do more with less, right? But also people who seem to be redefining work and success and life and what they want. Is this something you feel?
Well, totally, totally. First of all, I really want to congratulate you for the for the title of your podcast, because I was very intrigued by the title and the provocative character of it. So I really like it, and it's something that that we're discussing, and not only in talent acquisition, but at L'Oréal in general, in HR, and even with the business managers. And not only since the arrival of Gen Z in the company, but it's definitely been an accelerator to say, okay, how are we going to work differently? How can we create even more value with maybe less working hours, work differently, more efficiently? And of course, tech is helping us a lot, but for me, tech is more of an enabler. It's what we need in order also to leverage tech is a mindset shift. And there is some. I'm a big fan of fewer but bigger, which is not always easy to implement at L'Oréal, because at L'Oréal we have a lot of creative minds, a lot of people who want to do a lot of different things and have a lot of ideas. And then sometimes I have to be the bad cop and say, guys, let's just focus on the things that really matter, that will have a strong return on investment. And so to answer your question, yes, definitely, it's a big topic, and not only since yesterday, but for quite a while now.
And yeah, you talked about the generation, but I'm actually thinking, how do you see the landscape changing since COVID? I'm pretty sure you're not working today and you're not thinking about talent today the same way you did in 2019.
No, but what we saw is that, and I think we're not the only ones at L'Oréal, is that the trends that we saw before COVID, 2018, 2019, they've been accelerated by COVID. And I think a lot of them we're embracing them, and they're good, and they're here to stay. Let's take remote work. Before COVID, L'Oréal had a policy of 1 day per week of remote work. We adapted our policy right after COVID, or even during the COVID period, to 2 days per week, up to 2 days per week. And we haven't changed it since. In the beginning, to be honest, internally, there were a lot of people saying, other companies are going to for full remote 5 days a week. And L'Oreal is old fashioned, blah, blah, blah. But we our culture is a culture of networking, is a culture of being together, is a culture where we strongly believe that working together, brainstorming together, is what brings us the best output. And it's a people, very in a people-centric company. It's difficult to be full remote, to be very honest.
No, and I don't, and frankly, I actually think that's, when people thought COVID will leave behind full remote or officeless, I think that's a misunderstanding. I think it's just a shift on the idea that you can work from anywhere. And then the question is, where's the right place to do the work at any given time, right? Which is different. Yeah.
I fully agree. I fully agree. It's much more about flexibility. And when we ask our employees, funnily enough, they were really, really happy to come back, and they're really happy about the flexibility that the company today is offering, and they're not asking for more. They're not asked. They say, I'm really happy to be in the office 3-4 days per week, and then choose from time to time 1 or 2 days per week where I can work remotely and from home or from a different place within their country. That's the flexibility that they want, and that we can offer.
So other than location, so other than this idea of
Yeah.
home and office, what else are you feeling are the changes in how people want to work and interact?
What we see as well is that, for instance, I feel that there is a stronger discipline when it comes to how we are using our time at work or working. Be much more conscious of, the time that you spend in the office or working remotely, that it's really considered as an investment. It's like money,
So I'm
and so
trading time with work and better work.
exactly. And so you're much more conscious about the use of time and the creation of value during the working hours. This is something that I'm very I'm adamant about with my team to say, we're working a lot, and I don't want you to work more. I want you to work more in a more intelligent way,
Smarter. Yeah.
and in the end, get rid of everything that does not create any value for the organization and for the business.
Which brings us to AI, right? Because
Yeah.
part of the conversation going on right now, and I'm having these conversations in so many ways. We bring in technology, and there's always the really question, right? Is it about taking away the things that maybe technology can do that I don't need to do and freeing up my time to do more creative and smart things? Or do we bring in technology, replace people and send them home?
My point of view and L'Oreal's positions on this topic is very clear. And it's your first answer. So at L'Oreal AI, and I'm not only talking about talent acquisition, not only talking about HR, but also about business, will never ever replace human beings. And especially in my role and in my métier in recruitment, we know that it's humans who can assess humans the best way. There are things that AI can do, and we're leveraging this, especially when it comes, to the first stage in the selection process. We receive almost 2 million CVs per year.
Wow.
For last year, 12,000 jobs that we had. So you can imagine that my recruiters around the world, I have roughly 200 recruiters working in my team around the world. They cannot screen and look at 2 million CVs. That's not
Yes.
possible. So this is where we're leveraging AI in the first step. But when it comes to making the recruitment decision, it will always be the human being and the human beings and the recruiters together with HR and together with the hiring managers that will make the final decision. So
Yeah, and I
that will
think
not change.
I think that first of all, we know this, right? Even the AI Act in the EU, but also this is like a one of the places where it feels a little clearer. But if you then go to a lot of other things that people do in the process, not just, screening
Yeah.
CVs, but also
Yeah.
just the day-to-day work that we all
Yeah.
do, right? AI comes in and it takes away some of the work. So if you have, like, for example, 200 recruiters, and, I'm just picking on them because you've mentioned them, technically, I'm going to assume that more and more of the work that they do can be done well enough, still leaving the human in the middle, right? But well enough with technology, better than we did it 5 years ago.
Totally. I give you two examples. So I think what is important before I give you the examples, but what is important to say is um, that AI is not changing the why and the what of what we're doing.
Hmm.
It's changing and impacting the how. And I think that is exactly what you're saying. It's changing the way we attract and recruit the best and most diverse talents. And the two examples that I would like to share with you, where we already see the benefit, is it's very simple things. No, it's first is the auto scheduling. So we're using AI in order to schedule the interviews of candidates with our HR partners and our hiring managers. Before, it was the role of my recruiters, and that was honestly, that sometimes takes a lot of time, and that's a purely administrative,
Yeah.
non-added value task.
Yes.
Today it's AI, it's a tool, and we're working with an external partner on that, and it's helping the teams a lot.
That's clear. Could you think of the other end, though? Something that, for example, you couldn't do before, and because you have AI now, you're able to do?
Um, I think AI gives us, well, it's not completely new, but in terms of data accuracy and decision making on to base our decisions on real data that we can get much faster than before and more in a more accurate way, that's definitely a big plus. So here it's not totally new, but it's more accurate
Yeah.
and it's much faster. So it accelerates the decision making process, and also it allows us to be much more business minded when it comes to because this is how the business what the business is expecting from us is to say, facts and figures, show me what the ROI of your role is, of TA is, and then today it goes beyond intuition, and it goes beyond just qualitative aspects. It's real data, and it's more accurate and faster access to data.
Are you seeing a changing, so we talk about the business, right? A changing composition of the work and the role and the skill set that you actually need to hire for the business? So I'm not talking about your own team, but the people that you're bringing into L'Oreal today, what you need them to be able to do compared
Yeah.
to the composition of the types of people and the roles and the professions that you used to bring.
Yeah, I think it's two things. First, of course, it's new capabilities because their jobs, are evolving so quickly. And 5 years ago, or yeah, 5, 6 years ago, nobody knew what an RGM was doing, and if we need an RGM, yes or no. And now it's in the past 2 years, it's one of the roles that we're recruiting most for. And the same for the tech part. L'Oreal is the pioneer in beauty tech. So we recruited a lot of data analysts, a lot of tech profiles in the past. So and these new capabilities, I think it will be even faster, and we will see things evolving in the future that we haven't seen and that we today we don't know about. The second is more about the soft skills or human skills, or what you call now these days mad skills, I think. Um, and I think those are becoming more and more important, with AI being able to replace some of the hard skills. The real difference will be or are already today are the soft skills, and we've always measured the the potential of our candidates. It's always been at least as important as the professional skills. And so these 5 potential criteria, they are soft skills, and they become today, when I talk with the business, they say, I need people with a strong learning agility, with a high level of resilience, strong empathy. So those are the skills that today really make the difference and that we're looking for.
Okay, that's really interesting. I want to dive in there because one of the things that I strongly believe is the more we bring in technology, the more we will discover the nuances of people skills that we didn't even necessarily appreciate, know how to verbalize or describe. A lot of our, what you call soft skills, and I know the names are changing these days, right? A lot of those are used to be self-reported, right? I tell you that I am a people person or an innovative person or a good leader. But what's the nuance of making a good leader here that's different than a nuance of a good leader there? We don't have even the tools to understand that or the words to describe it properly. So I'm really curious to hear how you define potential and how you actually, um, measure or assess it without the self-reported piece.
Mm. So, and that it's not a new approach at L'Oréal. We've always looked very carefully and very strongly at the personality of the candidates. It's always been a very strong aspect of the recruitment process. Um, and so we have what we call 5 potential criteria. And these 5 potential criteria, we use them in order to assess our talents and our leaders internally. And it's exactly the same criteria that we are using for recruitment. So there is perfect consistency. So these 5 are, I already mentioned 3. So you have learning agility, you have ambition, you have empathy, you have judgment, and resilience. They haven't changed. I think the last one that we added was resilience. I think that was right after COVID. And so these 5 are assessed internally and externally. And so it's not, to be honest, if you're expecting now something highly scientific, it's not. So we are training our TA community, my recruiters. We're training the hiring managers. So in the past 2 years, we've trained almost 20,000 hiring managers in a half-day training format that's called License to Hire, where we exactly train them on these 5 potential criteria. What are the 5 potential criteria? How are you evaluating the 5
Yes.
potential criteria? What are the questions that you ask in order to, to find out if somebody is ambitious, if somebody has learning agility, etc. So it's something that we rolled out over the whole across the whole organization, and that we are measuring. It's not once again, it's not a scientific way of measuring it. It's really based on questions.
I like behavioral interview kind of
Exactly,
concept. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, but it's interesting because you even call it potential. And one of the things we talk about a lot, right, is I know a lot of candidates complain. We say you can have experience in one area, but it shows potential for, the ability to work in another area. So the ability to broaden your possibilities. And a lot of organizations are still looking, exactly for somebody who's done exactly this job in exactly this industry, versus actually looking at the potential for people to
Totally,
learn, which I
totally.
think I really love that word. So I'm also curious about your perspective on the candidate market. Do you think the job seekers are changing?
I think the candidate market has changed, but once again, even before COVID, I think there was a power shift towards the candidates. So I still remember when I was, 25 years ago, when I was a candidate, it was you were the one in an interview who had to really explain why you were the right why you're the right person for this job and why you really want to work for this company. And today, my hiring managers and myself, I'm still recruiting, so I have to sell the company. So if we want the best and most diverse candidates, they are picky. They don't. They're not only interested in L'Oreal, they're interested in many other interesting companies, and they get offers from the best ones. They get offers after graduating at the junior level from 3, 4, 5 different companies. So you have to be fast. You have to be. So this has changed.
Can you pinpoint why? Because it's so I totally agree with you. But for some reason, there are a lot of, and this goes back to the AI conversation, there are a lot of senior leaders who believe that with technology coming in, this is going to change the power structure where companies need less people, especially less junior people, and they let them, and they bring in the technology and they have the power to choose. I personally don't think that's the case. I think all the indicators show that talent shortage is still going to be a thing, but I'm curious to hear your perspective.
No, I don't think that it's going to change at all. On the contrary, because once again, I believe that AI is not replacing. It's replacing tasks that today are non-added value tasks. So, and let's be honest, the talents of the most talented and most diverse people that we're looking for capabilities, and we're looking for characteristic traits that will not be able to be replaced by tech. And then there is the talent shortage. There are the demographics that are not at all favorable for the big companies. The competition has become much, much fiercer and larger, because at the time, 25 years ago, let's be honest, there were everybody wanted to work for the big multinationals. At least when I started in Germany, there were the big names. And today, the Gen Z, and I think it's a very healthy competition today. It's not only the MNCs, it's the startups. They're very entrepreneurial as well. They're taking the risk to build their own business, and if they fail, they fail, but they learn a lot. So they're much more independent than we were 25 years ago. So that's why I don't think at all that this is going to change in the next couple of years. On the contrary, I think we really need to continue to improve our recruitment process, the way we engage with candidates. The authenticity is extremely important, because they are so well informed today, that they can spot, like I don't know how you call it, a company. You don't call it greenwashing, but just like if you do too much marketing, if you're telling stories that in the end are not true, once they're in the company, they immediately find out, and then they leave. They're
And
and
then
they're right.
tell everybody else
And
off.
they tell everyone, and they're also, we should never forget, they're also potential consumers. So this can also have an impact on our business. When I told one of our big priorities is candidate experience, because we know that there are things that we're doing well at L'Oreal. There are other things that we need to improve when it comes to candidate experience. And I showed to our business leaders the other day some stats showing that candidates with a bad candidate experience, 40% of these candidates stopped buying products of the company that
Oh,
they had a bad candidate
and
experience with.
and we know, right? We know there's no
Yeah,
such thing as employer branding and external branding. They mesh, right? So we know that.
absolutely. And to be honest, not only I can relate, but they're right. They're right. I would act in the same way. So,
So when I asked you before about this whole idea of flexibility in terms of it not just being about work from home and work from the office, one of these things that we're seeing, and you mentioned it, right? They want their career life cycles are different, right? You and I, we went into an organization, and the deal was it's going to be many years, right? So our progression and the expectations, it was different life cycle. And today they come in, they do, a number of years, and then they ask, what's the next thing I want to do? And do I want to do it here? Or maybe I want to do something else. And it doesn't confuse them, the idea of leaving, maybe coming back, maybe trying something, failing, doing something else. Do you see that also playing out?
You see it. Um, at the same time, we're lucky at L'Oreal that we have a like an HR policy in a way to develop our people that resonates a lot with Gen Z, and we didn't have to reinvent anything because we've always put mobility as one of our key career drivers and levers. So it means at L'Oreal, you have four divisions. You have subsidiaries in more than 60 countries. You can move from one function into another. I started in marketing. I went from marketing to HR. I worked in four different countries. I worked in four different divisions at L'Oreal, and this is not by chance. It's really it's our HR strategy.
You're
So I
basically saying you can build your whole career
and this is
cycles within the company.
totally. And you know, when I'm interviewing Gen Z today, they're asking the first question is, "Oh my God, you've been in the same company for 25 years," and you see, they're almost under shock. And I say, yes, and I understand what you mean, but I'm in my 10th role now, so it means I moved every 2.5 years. And every time I moved, I had the impression I was stretched. I was pushed out of my comfort zone. I changed the division, I changed the countries, I changed the functions. So it felt almost like every time I changed the job, I changed the company,
Yes.
with one difference. And I think that resonates as well. The safety net was always the L'Oreal culture and the L'Oreal group.
Yes. Yes. It's
And that was
different than changing
that
every
was very reassuring. And I think this is something that, despite the changes and the, growing, learning, moving, this is something that also resonates very strongly with Gen Z today, is to have a certain kind of safety net and a kind of reassurance and a culture with strong values that they can cling to.
And do you find so other talent trends that I noticed were people wanting to also do additional in personal or businesses on the side that
Mhm.
we didn't think that we would bring them, do them at the same time. Is
Mhm.
that something you're seeing?
Um, Not so much at the moment. I have some cases and some employees, and then we discuss openly about it and say, okay, is it possible? Is it something that that can be even interesting also for your current job at L'Oreal? Can we create synergies? And then we have discussions. So we remain flexible. There is also a lot of voluntary work that we enable. In the area of CSR, and this is something that we strongly support.
Yeah, and another trend that I've noticed with talent was what they call boomerang employees. So
Yeah,
employees they go out, they do something else, they
yeah.
come back. Are you seeing that in a different way than in the past?
Not only we're seeing that, but it's one of our top five sources of senior recruitment at L'Oreal. And I remember like 20 years ago, somebody who left L'Oreal and a couple of years later knocked at the door and said, I would like to come back. We didn't do it because it was almost, you left the family and now
Yes.
we won't have you back. This has changed a lot. And today it's even, we're strategizing rehiring. To give you just an idea, last year we rehired 800 L'Oreal, ex-L'Orealians back to L'Oreal. Um,
Okay, that's fabulous because I think I wrote sometime about this idea of off ramps and on ramps, right? So people go out, they do whatever for whatever reasons, right? And they can come back, and we're also seeing alumni networks so actively
yeah,
keeping them
they're
connected.
very powerful. They're very powerful, and we stay in touch with our, with the employees who left L'Oreal. And of course, there are some that we don't want to stay in touch with. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
But then you have people who we consider as really regretted leavers, and we stay in contact with them. And then at some of them want to come back, and some of them are coming back. And it's important that the rules of the game are clear. So we put in place also an internal policy with a set of criteria, under which circumstances also we're taking ex-L'Orealians back. But we did a video on LinkedIn. I don't know if you saw it, roughly one year ago, where we put testimonials, 6-7 boomerangs that came back and that shared their experience of coming back at L'Oreal in a fun way. So also to show those who probably don't dare, who left L'Oreal, who would like to come back,
That there's an option, yeah. So as we kind of wrap up, I wanted to ask you, with your, vast experience and perspective on the market and the trends, when you look forward to the next, 3 to 5 years, what do you think are going to be the big changes, or what are you preparing for?
So I was with my team last week, and we had the chance to have a Q&A session with the number 2 of L'Oréal, with Fabrice Megarban, who is our Chief Growth Officer. And he said something that I found extremely reassuring. And it's not answering 100% your question, but it's at least it's showing the direction. He said the companies that will be successful are those who invest as much in people as in tech. And this is something I strongly believe in. So personally, I think that in tech, we will accelerate. It will go faster. Tech will help us even more, to eliminate the parasite tasks, and at the same time, the added value of human beings, of talent, of capabilities, and of soft skills, or once again, human skills, will become even more important and critical. So I see that I'm 100% convinced that the two can not only work together. It's not, for me, it's not at all a contradiction. On the contrary, it's perfectly complementary.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. I totally agree with you. And just to kind of wrap up, what's the one question you think we should all be asking ourselves these days about the future of work?
Are we creating the right conditions for employees and for talents in the company to be able on a daily basis to give their best, and to really create not only the added value for the business, but also to really blossom and to reach their full potential? Because the one is directly linked with the other. So once again, it's not a contradiction. Once you reach your potential, and once you're at 100% of what you can give, can learn, can deliver, the business success is a direct result of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Michael, for joining me today on The Future of Lesson. For more about Michael, Kienle, and his work, check out his LinkedIn, and the links in the podcast description. Thank you for joining us, where we're piecing together the ever-changing puzzle of work. And remember, the new social contract is a win-win between people and organizations. Your best people do not work because they have to, because you tell them to, or because you measure them on it. They work because they want to, because by working for you, they're also achieving their own purpose in life. Till next time.